All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to start, whether you're sitting down or still talking, we're going to talk over the top of you. Violent rule breaker, violent rule breaker.
Boom! Hey!
We got sound. All right, technical difficulties are solved. We are going to start the meeting.
Don't be so...
Okay, good morning, Melissa. Okay, clearly you guys can't hear me. I'm going to shout. Hello? Calling the meeting to order. Please take a seat.
Quiet, everyone!
Hello? Please sit down somewhere. If there's not any chairs left, make friends with somebody. Sit down. Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Brown. I was told I was supposed to say that because I don't usually.
Good morning, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly. I just want to put a couple of little quick rules out there. We will respect and be respectful, and we will listen to the person speaking. If you're having a sidebar, you're not listening. Please give the person who has the microphone your undivided attention, because they may say something that was really interesting to you, but you didn't hear it because you were talking. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to today's agenda before I move on?
Turn off your cell phone.
Turn off your cell phone. Thank you, Jim. Turn off your cell phones. I never say that one. I don't know. Jim, Richard, where are you?
Right here.
Richard, would you like to recognize any new members? First time at the table?
Stuff's already posted.
Nope. Okay. Special guests, Richard?
Special guest, starting over here, Gretchen Cochran from WSLR. And 2 rows from her is Walter from Brotherhood of Men, the director. We got Nancy Kelly right here, our favorite city person.
You're our favorite.
And behind there, up against the window, is Derek Gillum from Suncoast Sunlight, right? Searchlight. And then right here is KKO. I'm going to ignore him today. Yeah, Kat and Kelly Ulrich, Steve Culver, planning, Jennifer Jerickson. How did I miss you? Tell us what you do.
I work for the city, governmental affairs.
Governmental affairs, there you go. And
Name?
Who works for governmental affairs?
Jennifer Jorgensen.
Oh.
And who's pointing at what here? We have an architect in the crowd, Carl Abbott. Thank you, sir. And of course, our friend from Code Compliance, Whitney's sitting right here behind me. And I think everybody else is going to be introduced later in the show. Is that right?
Yes.
Jen's over there. Sorry, Jen.
Jen Ahern Koch over here.
All right, thank you, guys. There you go, Kelly.
We do have one new to the table member, Gary Dickinson from McCullough Parkway. Gary, say hello. And just a reminder, in this venue, the people at the table are the ones that ask the questions of the speakers. The audience and guests do not. So if you have a question you want to have asked, and you know your neighborhood person, and you snuck over there and put a piece of paper in front of them, I probably would ignore that. But if you all get up and do it at the same time, that's going to be a problem. Okay, everybody clear on that? Fabulous. Next up, we have the police report with Matt G. Take it away, Matt.
Put the microphone right there.
Hold it, push and hold.
Got it, sir. Do we have the clicker?
I do.
Thank you, Richard.
You want to do it?
I got it.
Do you know how to work it?
Just right, left, right arrow?
No, just the big arrow.
Just the big arrow. Okay. Thank
Just
you.
the big-
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me again on this beautiful day. So we're going to start off with some monthly stats. So for the month of February, we're going to start off. So we had 1 murder in February, 15 aggravated assaults, 3 robberies, 1 sex crime, 9 burglaries, 15 larceny from vehicle, and 6 motor vehicle thefts. So like what we like to do next is compare from last year to this year at this time period. So in 24 we had 1 murder, and then in 25 so far, year to date, we've had 1. And for aggravated assault, in 2024 we had 26, and 22 for 25 so far. There we go. Robbery in 24 we had 8, and 5 for 2025. Sex crimes we had 5, and 3 so far this year. Burglary we had 27 in 2024 year to date, and then 16 for 2025 year to date. Larceny from vehicle, 26 and 24, and then 25 and so far in 2025. And then motor vehicle theft, 17 and 24, and then 16 in 2025. So who the people that are new here, and then we usually go over traffic stats. So from February 1st to the 25th, we had 1,100 citations given for speeding and 61 warnings. For traffic crashes, there were 185. 4 of those involved pedestrians and 3 involved bicycles, and we had 3 crash fatalities this past month, excuse me. And then what I like to do for the people that are new is give some crime tips. So this month we're going to talk about ways to report a crime. Excuse me, sorry if I was in your way. Of course, number 1, emergency. Please call 911. Number 2, the non-emergency line. And that we have that at the end of the slide, but it's 941-316-1199. Of course, if you feel it's an emergency at all times, call 911. Report a crime via online text apps. We have an online report database. Some other agencies might have text or apps. Anonymous tip lines that will help you stay anonymous if you don't feel comfortable. But for example, like Crime Stoppers, great way to stay anonymous. And then if it leads to something, you get a reward out of it. And then of course, if you need to come to us, visit us at the police station, or if you live in the county's jurisdiction, the sheriff's office. And then just some information when you are calling 911 and they're going to be asking you stuff is just make sure you're giving a very detailed description of the incident, what happened, where, who was involved. If it's a vehicle, make sure you're getting that license plate, the make and the model, and then, so those are just really 2 big things I want to emphasize on, because that information is so important to us to make sure we can get out there and stop that. And then there's some upcoming events that we like to host. And Coffee with a Cop at Whole Foods this coming week, the 7th, from 9 to 11. We have the Police Foundation Cornhole Tournament coming up on 3/29, and then National Night Out. Please put that on your calendar. It's a great event for the community. That's going to be April 15th. And then, of course, other ways to contact us or follow us. So Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube. Emergency line, of course, 911. And then non-emergency, 941-316-1199. Any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Got it, Richard?
Where?
Right here, St. Albans.
Chuck Half, St. Armand's. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for presenting this. Those crime statistics were improved quite a bit since the previous year. Have you guys kind of analyzed that at all, or seen some reasons why?
Because of you guys. We come here, and I mean this, like, we come out here, like, and when I first started taking over this in 23, we had a really high, break-in into vehicles, and coming to these association meetings, people having me come out and speak to them, and you guys emphasizing, hey, like make sure you lock your cars, make sure you're not, leaving valuables in there. We saw a big reduction, and as you saw, like in every other category, a big reduction. So I thank you guys, because you guys are doing what we're asking you to do and listening for the community. So I really appreciate that. So keep up the good work, keep passing these messages along, share this information with people. So I think that's the main thing, is that people are listening to what we're saying. So thank you.
My question is about bicycle pedestrian crashes. When my husband and I go out walking.
Name a neighborhood.
Golden Gate Point.
Okay.
When my husband and I go out walking, say down by the bay, we get these bicyclists coming up fast behind us. And it gets a little scary, you know. So could you say something about your perception of that particular issue? Are we like other cities, less than other cities? What do you do to alert bicyclists that they have a responsibility to make pedestrians in front of them aware that they're coming up fast?
On your left.
So I don't have like a stat against other cities, but you know, that is like we do put out bicycle safety tips, all that. Also, we do pedestrian tips. So if there's ever a time with the association that you'd like me to come present and give even more in depth about pedestrians, please reach out to me. I can bring a whole thing. I actually just did it for the Jefferson Center, and it was just a lot of good information that they really appreciated, that we could talk more in depth about. But I don't have like a comparison to other cities. But yeah, you know, the one thing I'd say at night, if you're doing it at night, bright colors, make sure you're using the sidewalk. I know sometimes they should be using the bike lane and they're not, right? So, but we're not there 24/7, but we know it's an issue. So we keep trying to do education for bicyclists and pedestrians at all times.
Any other questions? Nope, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move into our special presentations, and I want to remind everyone here that we are here to listen and learn, not comment from the audience. We intentionally have two unique groups here this morning, because what better way to learn all about, all the stuff that you read things, you hear things. Let's hear from the actual people that are doing the work. But before we do that, I want to apologize. I need to recognize Mary Alpert came in. Thank you for joining us this morning, Liz. So first up, we're going to have Bill and Tanya from the Sarasota Performing Arts Center give a presentation on what the new SPAC would look like. And after they're finished, we're going to have a presentation from Ron and Lori regarding the Van Wezel and how do we save that. This is not a against one or the other presentation. This is for information and knowledge. And after both presentations have been given, we will take questions. They will take questions. And I would cue it up to the members. Please, when you raise your hand and want to speak, please ask a question. Don't editorialize. Thank you. And away we go.
Wait, almost.
Bill.
Clicker? You have lots of remotes there. Richard.
Matt had it.
Did he lay it down there?
Here, Bill. I put it in a safe spot right in my pocket.
Oh my.
Kelly, these slides are on the website.
Oh, yes, sorry.
They also-
There's a QR.
Oh, which, I'm sorry.
There's a QR code on your agenda. If
Yeah,
you
which one?
scan that QR code, it'll take you to these presentations. You can follow along on your phone. And it's also on our website if you'd like to look at it in detail later. And for those of you that are like, what's our website again? I finally put our website information at the top of your agenda so you don't have to try to remember. Take it away, Tanya. Oh, you have one.
Good morning. Is it on? We're on. While our IT guy loads up our slide deck, nice to see all of you again. Great. Looks like we're good. Thank you, Richard. Nice to see you all again. I'm Bill Waddell with Kimley Horn, and I am a consultant to the Sarasota Performing Arts Foundation. Have been for about a year. Prior to that, I spent 6 years at the Bay Park Conservancy working with A.G. Lafley to do a lot of public outreach, get the master plan approved for this beautiful Bay Park, Phase 1 built, Phase 2 fully funded, and worked hard with AG and others to negotiate the TIF district that is currently co-funding the project, the buildings within it, and connectivity in the neighborhoods. So I'd like to turn it over to Tanya Castroverdi-Moscolenko, who is the CEO for the Performing Arts Foundation.
Thank you, Bill. I promise you don't have to remember my last name. Tanya will be sufficient. Thank you for the invitation to be here this morning and with our other guests this morning. It is a pleasure for us. I'm going to jump right in, but before I talk too much, I want to talk a little bit about our history of the Sarasota Performing Arts Foundation. I don't know how many of you are aware, I think you all probably are aware, that the Van Wezel is a department of the city of Sarasota, that all the employees are city employees. And so in 1987, the foundation was founded to raise funds as a nonprofit 501c3 to support the programs, particularly education programs, at the Van Wezel. So since 1987, we have granted over $17 million to the Van Wezel. So we're basically a fundraising arm of the Van Wezel. And so after the city of Sarasota conducted a climate adaptation or a climate study of their 200 buildings in the city, they had identified the Van Wezel and the Gee Whiz as the two most vulnerable buildings in the city of Sarasota. And it was at that time that climate plan was adapted into and included into the Master Bay plan. And so we were invited to be a partner to the city of Sarasota on their vision to create a new performing arts center as the heart of the Bay Park Master Plan. And so this foundation, which at the time was called the Van Wezel Foundation, answered the call, and we agreed on a couple of items that I am going to share with you in a moment. So here's a timeline of when the City of Sarasota adopted the Climate Adaptation Plan and approved the Bay Park Master Plan. The foundation created and completed a feasibility study of actually putting a new performing arts center on the Bay Park. And in 2022, the City Commission approved a partnership agreement between the Sarasota Performing Arts Foundation and the city. And so that agreement indicates that the foundation will oversee on behalf of the city the design and construction of the Performing Arts Center. And these are all public documents, as you know, so you can find them online. We also agreed to co-fund the total cost of the building. It's called the TPC, total project cost. And we agreed to raise 50% of whatever that cost was from philanthropic dollars. We also agreed to operate the new Performing Arts Center once it opens, because best practices indicate that the government should not really be running performing arts organizations. So after the building opens, it will remain a building of the city on city land, but the foundation would be operating the building. And so most recently, the foundation has also agreed to operate and manage the Van Wezel Hall should the Purple Ribbon Committee recommend that the Van Wezel remain as a performing arts event venue, and should the City Commission approve it. So if the City Commission approves that the Van Wezel should remain a performing arts venue, the foundation or we have agreed to operate it. And that is not uncommon for an entity, a nonprofit, to operate multiple event venues on one campus. You can see this all across this country. Not too far away in Orlando, the Dr. Phillips has this model. The Broward Center in Fort Lauderdale has this model. The Arch Center in Miami has this model, as does the Kravis Center in West Palm Beach has this model, and so does the Strass Center, by the way, in Tampa. So I just want to get a little bit into the project vision. So to operate this new facility, we envision a place within this beautiful 53-acre park where we will delight audiences with programming, empower learners, which is really at the heart of what it's always been for the foundation, to support education and family programs, nurture the next generation of artists, and of course create shared experiences among our community. We envision a public square for both the individual that just wants to come in and have a cup of coffee in one of the cafes, or somebody who wants to come and enjoy our programming, a 21st century home for arts and culture with the latest technology, and of course, a legacy for future generations. Today, these are just numbers. I'm not going to repeat them because you can read them and you can find them on the slides, but we have done a number of community engagement events, 45. I don't know if today's is included in that. It probably isn't. And we have done surveys and had obviously a lot of one-on-one conversations with members of this community. I'm going really fast because we were told we were only given 15 minutes. So I want to talk a moment about the design principles, and certainly our architects are the ones who are best equipped to talk about this. But one of the principles of Renzo Piano Building Workshop, and as you know, Renzo Piano is our architect, and they were selected through a very arduous process, is to give back more park for the community. Well, yeah. So as you can see here, all of this parking area, all of the asphalt. So the vision is to be able to return a lot of that acreage back to the park so that the public and the community can enjoy more park and more green space. And as Bill always reminds me, that asphalt dumps about 300 million gallons of polluted water into the bay every year. And Bill can talk a little bit more about that. This is the Van Wezel right here, and here's the parking. Another design principle is resiliency and sustainability. And so with a vision toward the future and the climate that we live in, the idea is to elevate the buildings and create a building that has more resiliency and sustainability for the future. So you will see in a few more slides that Renzo Piano Building Workshop has designed a building with photovoltaic cover, and that much like Selby Gardens, that implementation of that will allow the buildings to generate 90% of the energy required to run the buildings. So a sustainable building, a resilient building, by building it away from the bay, the bay and closer to 41, which then comes, the cultural promenade comes into play here, because we are, excuse me, we already have several buildings that have begun a cultural walkway here. So we have the Blue Pagoda, we have the library, we have the art center, we have where we are today, the municipal auditorium. So it has started to create on its own over the years a cultural promenade. So by bringing the buildings toward 41 just continues that cultural promenade, and the buildings start to speak to each other and connect with each other. The building also sort of creates an entryway, a welcoming into the park from the city coming into the park. And then Renzo Piano Building Workshop is known for the way they design their buildings, which is transparency, allowing the community to have more agency with these buildings and really be part of the building. So transparency and accessibility. So this is, and we were asked to really cut down on our slide presentation. These are several slides put together, but I'm sure many of you have seen this in the press or have seen this in other presentations. What we are looking at are two event spaces, and this is consistent with the RFP, or request for proposal, that was distributed several years ago. It's a 2,700 seat theater that would host Broadway and commercial work, and then a 300 seat multi-purpose space right on the canal that would be located over a very large welcoming lobby, welcoming the community into the park with views of the bay, views of the sunset, and views of the park. This medium theater that was envisioned as well as part of the whole has been left for a future phase, depending on what happens to the Van Wezel. So should the city allow the Van Wezel or approve the Van Wezel to remain as a performing arts venue, then that would in essence become the medium theater for the community. Because of, again, we have been having a number of town halls, number of conversations with the community, and we've been listening. Many times our architects come into town to have these conversations, and we've done these conversations with our local architects. And because we have been listening and we have been responding to what we're listening to, we are now exploring moving the design further down south. And I'm gonna let Bill talk about why we moved it up north. But we are exploring currently the options of moving these buildings from this northern area further south into the park. And so these alternate site evaluations are for several reasons and things that we need to take into consideration. The guidelines of the adaptation plan, the reason why the buildings were elevated, and I'm sure you've seen some images, the buildings are elevated 20 feet off the ground, is because of climate resilience. But then the constraints are that there is a view corridor on the south side of the canal. And there's an agreement between the city and several of the buildings across the street that limits the height of these buildings. And the reason I say that is a constraint is because in order to present the kind of Broadway shows that Sarasota would want to have, we need to have a certain height of, not of the entire building, of the stage house. And so that's what we're evaluating right now. I'm going to go really quickly through this. I'm not even going to speak through this. I'm just going to click so that you can see some of the renderings that our architects have already created. This is the arrival. As you can see, the buildings are elevated. This is a view of the two buildings connected through a transparent bridge. As you can see underneath, they won't just be open corridors. There will be activation at the bottom of these buildings with restaurants and cafes. Well, I just want to point out restrooms, that we are planning to put a lot of restrooms in the building. This is a rendering of the multi-purpose space. A lot of transparency, looking out into the park, looking out into the bay. This is a rooftop terrace that is envisioned above that multi-purpose space. So that multi-purpose space, imagine it as a layered cake. You have the arrival lobby, you have a very large indoor lobby, you have a multi-purpose space, and then a rooftop terrace on top. Just wanted you to see what a 2,700 seat theater might look like. This is from Salt Lake City, Utah. And then let's talk about the budget. So the budget right now, as it stands for the total project cost, is $365 million. That is in today's dollars. And if we, the way that these numbers are determined is that it goes up with escalation 4% a year. And so if we break ground in 2 years, we are looking at an escalation of 4% between now and then. You don't have to do the math on your own. I can tell you what it is. It's going to be $407 million. So $42 million in escalation. Every year that we wait, the project goes up by about 4%. And then this, I would love for you to look at this when you have time, because this is this provides you context of what these projects cost. Our project is, is at $122 million, $122,000 per seat. That compares to the latest theater that the Dr. Phillips built. And then you can see the different numbers, so I'm not going to go into it.
Okay. So quickly, Kelly gave you the 1 minute, now 50-second warning. So just like the park, 50-50 public-private partnership for the new Performing Arts Center. A lot of conversations about the TIF. You probably have heard the current county projections project $376 million, but the county uses a very conservative model looking forward at actual receipts looking back, and then 4 to 5% moving forward for the rest of the 30 years. We actually use a real projection. I just paid my first property taxes at Beso. Trust me, I'm on the tax rolls. Every new building, Beso Cordelia adds $12 million to the TIF. And then all the cranes you see with pre-sales, those will all add $12 million. And so the real available money is over $700 million, between $700 and $800 million. We have more than enough money to renovate the Van Wezel, to renovate the historic buildings, to build a new hall, and to finish the park. And then where are we going to park? I think I'm out of time. I've been working on parking for 7 years and I'm still working on it. We know we need 1,100 to 1,200 spaces. We know we'll have most of that on the site, probably parking under park for a lot of it. And then we're working on off-site garages, including a new garage with 400 or 500 spaces in the Rosemary district to help alleviate problems there, as well as park for the park. And with that,
Thank you, Bill. And the last thing I just want to say is that I do want to welcome our architects are here with us today. So I want to welcome Mark Harrell and Carrie Joyce from Renzo Piano Building Workshop, who made the trip from Genoa, Italy, to be with us here today.
Thank you very much. Just so for in the all spirit of fairness, I made the other guys reduce slides too, because we don't have all day for presentation. But I would like to ask the group if you would like us to. We could put their full 45-slide presentation on our website if you'd like to see it. Members, show of hands if you'd like us to do that. Then we will do that. Thank you. All right, next up we have Lori and Ron going to talk about the Van Wezel. You two also have 15 minutes. Thank you.
Are you doing the PowerPoint first or the video?
Yeah, we're going to do the PowerPoint and then the video in the middle.
Seems so. Bill got it working. That pointer's right there.
Oh, and you have the pointer.
All right. Well, good morning. My name's Lori Muldowney. I was about to say for the record, because I'm so used to speaking to our elected officials. It's nice to see so many familiar faces around the room. Hi there. Been a long time. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall, its history, its architectural significance. But I wanted to begin by talking a little bit about the organizations that have been behind the scenes working to promote an understanding of these elements of the building. So let's see. I'm an immediate past president of the Sarasota Alliance for Historic Preservation. I see some former board members here, Martha Horton most notably. And we have been working with a diverse group of community members over the course of a couple of years now to promote an understanding of factual information about the significance of the building, its eligibility for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, and some of the benefits that could come with that designation. I want to recognize the members of the community group that have been working with the Alliance over the course of the last couple of years. We have Carl Abbott in the audience. He's been a member of our group, helping us to understand the architecture of the structure. We felt it was important to have diverse community voices, so we had Carolyn Michael join us as a actress who has performed at the theater over many years, and also a past member of the board of directors of the foundation. Molly Cardamone has been with us as a community activist and leading our efforts, as well as Georgia Court, Robin Radin, community members. And I think most notably and kind of interesting is that we've had members of the Van Wezel family join us, Catherine Stone and Tony Van Wezel, who've been able to share with us firsthand some of the passion that their family had for the creation of our Purple Cow. So, moving on to the next one. I'm gonna multitask here, right? Thank you. Sure. So, the Van Wezel opened in January of 1970, and the first show was Fiddler on the Roof, which was sort of interesting. As I talk about the history of the building, I'll introduce some community members that were significant in terms of making that choice. So when we were looking at this picture and getting ready to do the slideshow, we commented on the fact that you could really cover up the name, and the building is truly iconic enough that I think most people in this room would recognize it as the Purple Cow, as we also call it. The striking hue reflects the creative spirit, seaside setting, and playful purpose. And as listed there, Sarasota Herald Tribune architecture critic Harold Buble, who many of you may have known over his many years here, called it the one building that best represents Sarasota's culture and heritage. I love some of the stories about opening day. Before the curtain rose, the mayor asked for a salute to the latest gem in the Bayfront tiara of the city of Sarasota. And the architect, William Wesley Peters, who was with Taliesin Architecture Group, wore a lavender tuxedo. So it's going to be an interesting game to up over the years. So now, 55 years later, we're talking about the building and whether it is eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. So these are the criteria that we use when we think about listing a building in the National Register. Typically, buildings need to be more than 50 years of age, and so the Van Wezel does qualify for that, and I think that it probably was not designated when the city made their efforts at the Bayfront 10 years ago because it was just shy of that age threshold. In addition to age, a building needs to possess integrity, and that means that it still relays its historic significance through its physical appearance. There are 7 aspects of integrity that we look at when we look at eligibility for a building. Additionally, a building needs to be associated with historic events, associated with significant historic features, embody the characteristics of a method or type of construction, represent the work of a master, and possess a high degree of artistic value, and for districts represent a significant site. So I should say that it only needs to qualify in one of these areas in order to be listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Quite unique. 50 years of age for everything. Oh, I have 2 minutes left. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I thought you were saying 2 criteria. So the Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall qualifies in all of these areas. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, it opened on January 1, 1970. There has been controversy about the unusual color, but in some recent research, we have found that Taliesin architects, because of their commitment to creating organic architecture at the time, often would find a color that they felt symbolized the surrounding landscape. Next slide. David Cohen was a very important person in our history. I was privileged to know him. He was the mayor of the city of Sarasota. He brought together, he kind of made the magic. He was a concert musician. He understood great architecture. In fact, Paul Rudolph designed his home on Siesta Key, and he was also a downtown businessman. The city of Sarasota, upon his death, prepared this resolution and credited him with developing the idea of Sarasota as the cultural center of the west coast of Florida and being the inspiration for the Van Wezel. Next slide. I just love this image. It's from the original work when the hall was designed. Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin studio did this building. As many of you probably know, Wright developed the idea of organic architecture, which promotes harmony between human habitation and the natural world. The building was indeed inspired by a seashell. The literature is clear that it was an inspiration. It was meant to be inspirational, but not the design per se. And its shape was intended to reflect the waterfront environment of the West Coast. And let's see here. Finally, I just wanted to make a connection between the Sarasota School of Architecture. Some of you are very familiar with that. That's our signature style here. We know that the architects from the Sarasota School of Architecture were following Frank Lloyd Wright's work. We have great pictures of Paul Rudolph visiting Florida Southern College, which is one of the most iconic group of buildings in the state, one of the few done by Frank Lloyd Wright. So there's definitely a connection between the Sarasota School and this. Finally, I want to just touch on the benefits of historic designation, in addition to it contributing to our collective knowledge of our past, which is the sort of thing that gets me excited. There are also a lot of economic incentives and preservation grants. Actually, the municipal auditorium, this building which we're standing in right now, has received funding. The Chidsey Library building, thanks in part to the efforts of Bill Waddell in the Bay, has recently received a grant and is undergoing preservation work right now. St. Paul's Lutheran Church, a Victor Lundy building on Bay Vista Street. So, and with that, I will close my remarks. Thank you.
Mark Smith couldn't be here today, but he was
Use the
part
microphone,
of,
please.
sorry.
Yeah, use my.
Yeah, Mark Smith couldn't be here today, but he was kind enough to record a video. I don't know if Esther did it.
Good morning. I'm Mark Smith, architect here in Sarasota for going on 40 years. And thank you for allowing me to speak about the Van Wezel. Historical significance, obviously, to all of us. And I was pleased to see that in the Carnes report, the Van Wezel could be flood-proofed and preserved for a reasonable cost. And I think it was at $17 million. That for the long-term maintenance and also the 1.1 million for the floodproofing itself. That's a fraction of what it would cost, obviously, to build new. And my experience has been that clients, when considering either rebuilding or remodeling, when the remodeling cost gets close to over 50% of what it'd be to actually build new, that they'll consider building new. But when you're talking about 10 times as much, I haven't had a client yet that said, yeah, let's tear it down and build new. The building is sound. I reviewed the building twice after it was flooded. Minimal damage. The auditorium space wasn't damaged at all. No water inside it. The kitchen and the bar, 4 inches of water in the founder's lobby. The building did quite well. The roof was essentially intact. And so, anyway, the building is sound and it's historic, and in my professional opinion, should definitely be preserved. Thank you.
All right, and to continue on, I'm here to talk about the economics of the Van Wezel. And when discussing economics, it makes sense to think of the Van Wezel as a commercial enterprise, as a business. And when you first look at a business, one of the things you look at initially is brand. And the brand of the Van Wezel.
Is that where you needed to be?
Oh, thank you. There. Oh. There. The Van Wezel is well respected. It's actually been recognized by the leading industry magazine as best in its class 11 times, even just recently in 2020. So it's known as a world-class playhouse. So next, let's look at the Van Wezel as a product. Now, anyone that's been to the Van Wezel knows that the building has great sight lines. There's not a bad seat in the entire playhouse. And while I would rather have green space rather than asphalt, the parking makes it extremely easy to get in and out of the Van Wezel. The one unusual aspects of the Van Wezel is indeed the continental seating. And there are benefits to that layout. It gets wider rows, It has, once again, great sightlines and unobstructed views. And also, continental seating empties faster than center aisle theaters. So then, let's talk about the customer. How does the Van Wezel serve its patrons? Well, it constantly gets 4.5 out of 5 stars on both Facebook and on Google. And the Van Wezel gets rave reviews, actually hundreds of rave reviews. And it serves the audience well. 89% of the time, there are seats available day of the performance. So if you want to see a show, you can. So what about the quality of the events that are presented at the Van Wezel? Now, Mary Benzel does quite a good job at booking desired events. However, she does have to contend with Tampa, with a much greater population than Sarasota. The Strass Center in Tampa can maximize their audience by creating geographic blackouts to nearby cities, such as Sarasota. And when you want to think of that, think of the NFL, where they won't show the Bucks on TV to get people into the stadium. The Strass does the same thing. And since Tampa will always have more population than Sarasota, they will always have that edge. But this isn't unique. The Kravitz Center in West Palm Beach also gets restricted by the Broward Center because there are more people living in Miami than they live in West Palm. So the Kravitz had to wait 5 years before they got Hamilton, and actually another 5 years before they got Wicked. So it's a well-respected brand. It's well-regarded in the industry. The patrons give it rave reviews, and it presents desired events. So economically, the Van Wezel performs well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, presenters. That was awesome. Much appreciated. It is time for questions. If we could get all 4 of you up to the front here for questions, that would be wonderful. And who would like to kick us off? I see Kevin Spence.
I'm coming, Kevin.
I'm coming. Kevin Spence is the first hand I saw.
Richard, I got it.
All right.
Rose got it.
Who's next?
State your name and your neighborhood. Ask a question. Don't make a statement.
One question so we could get around the room.
And please, only one question, because somebody else might ask the 5 more that you have. Give them a chance. Okay? Thank you.
Kevin Spence, Indian Beach, Sapphire Shores. Ms. Moskalenko, Ron has stated the capacity is not a booking constraint. Do you agree with that? Why was the capacity chosen at a higher capacity for the new PAC?
Thank you so much for your question. So I just want to point out that I have been running performing arts I know I look really young, but I've been running performing arts centers for over 25 years across the country. In Florida, and Chicago, and Indiana, and Tennessee. So I have been doing this for many, many years. I have entered into many contracts with producers around the country, and every one of those contracts is an individual contract. There is not a blanket decision that Strass will automatically block out Sarasota. Every single contract is a separate contract. The other thing I will say, having done this for so many years, is that these performances will go where the producer can make the most money. We are a nonprofit organization because we extend programming to the community, and that is our mission. It's a triple bottom line. It's not just about money. It's about building community. But producers and Broadway is a for-profit entity. They are going to go where they can make the most money. If the Strass has 2,500 seats and we have 2,600, they will come here because it's about how many people are in the house, how much money they can make in their what they call per caps. Sometimes they take a percentage from the bar, from water bottles, from valet. So it's all in a deal. And Mary does a phenomenal job, but she only has 1,700 seats. And so to remain competitive in the market, we do need additional seats, and that is why the size of, there was a lot of thought put into the size of this new Performing Arts Center. And I do want to just refute one thing, because I may not have a chance to get the microphone again. When Commissioner Smith mentioned twice about tearing down the Van Wezel, nobody in the foundation wants to tear down the Van Wezel. I just want to be very clear about that. These two things have been combined, and they're two very separate issues. Our interest is to build a new performing arts center as per the master plan that was approved by the City Commission in 2018. And we came in as the partner for the city. We have no interest in tearing down the Van Wezel. For that reason, I showed the slide where we have unanimously agreed as an organization to run the Van Wezel if it remains a performing arts center. Thank you for your question.
Next question. Flo, you pick somebody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Say your name and your neighborhood. Ask a question, please.
Absolutely. Lynn Elkis, Gillespie Park, and thank you, Steve, for the question. The question is, does the vision include improved pedestrian across access across US 41?
Where'd the extra mic go? Absolutely. The 2018 master plan had 3 overpasses based on community input and commission direction. The current master plan went down to 1, but about a year ago, before Marlon Brown left, he asked the Conservancy to study an overpass at 9th Street to connect the Rosemary District and the park. So that is still in the works. Additionally, I know that the city engineer Nick and his team are working on modifications, refinements to the Boulevard of the Arts intersection to help calm the traffic a bit on 41 and facilitate crossing. But that is obviously a critical part of getting people from the downtown neighborhoods to the site. And as I mentioned before, by design, we incorporated in the interlocal agreement for the TIF that type of funding is eligible with TIF dollars.
Who's next? Thank you.
I'm working my way down the line, so just in case anyone.
Rob Grant, Arlington Park. You guys just showed a slide projecting the TIF going up to $775 million. I guess to be clear, is that all of it or just the city's half? And also to be clear, that money is not can't be used for the estimated $160 million in debt service, so that would have to come from somewhere else in the city budget.
Okay, so great question, and I could talk for hours about it, but Kelly won't let me.
Right.
But AG and I and Kathy Layton, our chair at the time of the Conservancy, led the negotiations with the city and the county to establish the TIF. I've worked on 25 or 30 TIF districts around the country over 37 years. Most of them, like the Main Street TIF, calculate a base value and then an estimated percentage moving forward, 4 or 5%, whatever it is, and then that's how they project what the value is going to be. That's where the 365, actually that's where the 165 came from. We knew the Quay is on the tax rolls at 25 million, which is why we put the base year 2019. We know there's 3 billion of condos being built there. And so most of that revenue is TIF money over the next 30 years. And so what we know is that the 365, which is the current projection, what the county does is they say, oh, look, it rose higher because of new buildings, but we're gonna go out 4 to 5% the remaining 25 years. What we did is we said, Cordelia, based on where I live, just paid my property taxes, they won't show up till July. All the cranes that are around us, there's 4 or 5 projects, again, each one will add 12 million. And so this is a realistic projection of what's being built and what's been approved, takes us to 700 to 800 million. That's city and county. And then the last part of your question, absolutely, it is eligible to pay for the debt service on the bond. The $48 million for phase 2, of course, we incorporated principal and interest in that, and that's incorporated in the number. So it's absolutely eligible. And so it's so important to understand that that is actually what the real city and county money is going to be. It's no surprise that the 5 years into the TIF, It's $200 million higher, the estimate from the county, than it was originally. We know that, and just look at the cranes that are all around us. This money is coming, and we can use it in this 2-block area around us, that's the TIF district, to build park, performing arts center, renovate the Van Wezel. And I can talk for hours longer afterward if you'd like.
Melissa Laughlin with Rosemary District Association. To follow up on the TIF, and one point I'd like to make is Rosemary District is a huge component of the TIF, which I think gets lost sometimes, that it's about the quiet, and the Rosemary District provides a lot of that, so highly of interest in our neighborhood. I'm really interested in the county's contribution on this, because I don't have a lot of understanding, but I think the county should be paying 25% of these projections. Have they agreed at any point? I know that the city hired you guys. What is the county's relationship? Where is their agreement on this, and how does that work?
Melissa, fantastic question. Again, I spent 2 years with partners getting this negotiated, and we got 3 votes. Former Commissioner Mayo, former Chairman Hines, and former state senator and Chairman Nancy Dieter, God rest her soul, voted in the majority to partner with the city to set up this interlocal agreement. Every dollar, the tax bill I just paid, every dollar I pay, 50 cents goes to the county, which normally they can spend anywhere in the county, south, east, wherever they want to. Of course, 50 cents of it stays in the city. What this TIF district enabled is for a 2-block area roughly, any rise in property tax values, which we've all seen since 2019 in that 2-block area, is dedicated to be spent on building park, performing arts center, and any renovations of the historic structures on the site. And so that's really, really important. The $48 million first bond is half city, half county, so they're partnered in that. The county has said they are very interested in providing a better boater experience for the 10th Street boat ramp area, and also water quality improvements. Tanya mentioned the 300 million gallons of polluted stormwater that's been running into our bay for 50 years. So we obviously need to spend money to clean that up, and connecting the neighborhoods. And then in terms of the Performing Arts Center, there are certainly commissioners that are asking smart questions about, should we be co-funding some or all of our portion of the TIF towards a Performing Arts Center? Very fair questions. It's a substantial project, just like they had about the Bay Park. But we are already having conversations with the 5 commissioners about the opportunity, about the importance, about how a majority of the folks that come to the 10th Street boat ramp and the site actually live in the county, not the city, and a very large number of folks that come to the Van Wezel live in the county. And so I'm very optimistic, just like we were able to successfully negotiate the TIF in 2020, that we'll keep our partnership together between city and county to co-fund this amazing legacy project.
Before we take the next question, just to be clear for the members, we make sure our members get to ask all their questions, so that's why I keep you at 15 minutes, so they can have the time to talk to you as long as they want to. So don't feel like you can't ask because we're gonna run out of time, because I'm not gonna cut you off, okay? Who's next?
Hi, Joyce Fitzpatrick. I don't think it's... Okay, from Plymouth Harbor. My concern is parking. You mentioned on-site parking. You mentioned a parking garage in Rosemary District. Then I thought I heard you say underground parking. I'm wondering about the underground parking. I'm wondering about the number of cars to be accommodated on the on-site parking. And since we have a lot of seniors in this community, will there be a shuttle that runs from the Rosemary building to the Performing Arts Center?
Great question. Nice to see you again. As I mentioned, I've been working on parking for over 7 years on this site. First, in terms of underground parking, that's sort of in quotations, because the thinking is the site today goes from sea level, about 5 at the shoreline, up to 15 in front of this building. So there's actually, in Florida, that's pretty dramatic rise. And so the idea is that the parking is probably at the elevation that you see out there now, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, and park would come up over parking. And so that's how you create, that's how we, in the master plan, showed green park where parking is. Park would come up over it. So is it technically under the ground? Yes, it's technically under the ground. But the park would come up over it. Piedmont Park in Atlanta does that. Lots of places have parking, have park over parking. And so that's the idea there. Back to your
faux underground parking.
yeah, well, faux underground parking. That's right. Technically, there will be grass and trees above the parking, but that's how you do about 600 spaces. AG is working on that right now with some consultants. What we know about the site is when we got here, there were about 1,400 spaces. Now there's about 1,250, and so we know that we need to remove almost all of the existing asphalt because that was built prior to the Clean Water Act. That's how you count the 300 million gallons of pollution every year in the Bay. So we know we got to tear it out. What we also know is we want to build it back more sustainably where it pre-treats all the stormwater. Lots of ways to do that. We did it in phase 1. The thinking is that there are 3 or 4, maybe 5 ways on the site. We would keep about 1,000 spaces, maybe 1,100, not sure. But the renovated cultural district will have 100, 150. The boat ramp currently has 113 spaces. That converts in the evening to about 200 car parking spaces. Most cities turn their spaces over multiple times. That's smart, so you minimize the asphalt. That adds the heat island effect. Boat ramp is busy. Again, 6 years on the site. Boat ramp is really busy in the morning, not busy at night. Performing Arts Center in season is busy at night, not busy in the morning. And so that's a perfect opportunity to turn over that space. We've been working with FPL for overflow parking for their acre of land. And then I've literally been working for 7 years on getting a parking garage at the Housing Authority site when they rebuild for the Rosemary District, but also to serve the park, particularly the south side of the park. So folks come, eat at Arts and Central for dinner, park in that garage, walk across the street, stroll through the park to the new hall. And then lastly, to your accessibility question, if you think about valet and accessible parking, the existing hall was built 50-something years ago, so it was just sort of a different approach to that. If you think about new hotels that you go to in Las Vegas or big hotels in other cities that have 4 or 5 lanes of valet, have a very efficient Uber, Lyft drop-off, and then you think about under park, so underground parking that's protected from the weather. Think about that in terms of how you'd handle a new performing arts center. And then lastly, there has been conversations about a shuttle from several off-site parking places, whether it's in the Rosemary District, whether it's somewhere east in the Rosemary District, whether it's other garages in the city. That's still to be determined, but we are confident, I am confident, having worked on it 7 years, there's plenty of parking capacity within a 5-minute walk where they can easily be shuttled to the site.
I'll come back that way, sorry, guys, I didn't see your hands.
We need somebody from this side to
Yeah.
ask the question. Come on, guys.
What's the matter with you guys on the left? Raise your hand.
Ask a question.
Molly Cardamone from Avondale. Thank you for very, very well done presentations, all of you. Lori got cut off a little bit before she spoke about FEMA and historic designation. Would you give us some very serious details of how that would affect us?
Certainly, thank you for the opportunity. So we were just talking about the elevation here, and we all understand that this is an area that's very vulnerable to flood damage. We've seen some of it, too much of it, over the past couple of months. So one of the big incentives for listing buildings in the National Register of Historic Places, particularly in areas like Florida, is that there is an exemption from the FEMA substantial improvement limitation. Commonly, people call that the 50% rule. The 50% rule was put in place to limit reinvestment in non-conforming structures. However, in the instance where you have a property that has historic significance and is listed in the National Register, that limitation goes away. And so it is an incentive for listing buildings and provides you the opportunity to rehabilitate them properly and appropriately without being concerned about the amount of funds that might be required to do that. It doesn't, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Norm Domain, Glen Oaks Estates. This is a kind of larger question in terms of the development of the Bay Park, but it does have some connection here with this. In the original designs, there was a significant discussion about the sunset boardwalk that would be over the water, and I don't see that in the designs that are currently there. Is this something that has been just eliminated from the Bay Park plan? Or is there anything along that line in terms of future plans?
Morning, Norm. So I can speak for the 6 years that I was there, and then of course A.G. Lafley's still the CEO, so he would know definitively exactly what they're thinking, but there were originally in the adopted master plan and in the current master plan 2 overwater structures, because that was always at the tops of all the surveys that we did. People want to be by the water, over the water, better water access fish. So phase 1 has always intended to have a sunset pier going out. I say we, currently AG, about 3 years in permitting at the Corps of Engineers. I believe I heard that they either just received a permit or a notice of intent to permit, and so I believe they're about to get a permit for that. I don't know the status, you'd have to ask AG about the status of if, when that would be built or whatever, but it's a part of the phase 1 approved site plan that the City Commission approved a number of years ago, and it's currently on the adopted master plan. There's a second overpass structure that was contemplated conceptually to help us get up and over from the south side of the site, up and over the canal and land in the north side, where there would be a few restaurants and better access if you're walking along the water to work your way back around. That has cost associated with it. I've been working with the boaters and the captains for about 7 years. They have some concerns and questions about how will that possibly impede boats coming underneath it. And so I've heard AG say it's still on the adopted master plan, but they haven't really dug into does that still make sense? Will that still be built? And so I'm not sure. You need to ask AG that, and he happily answer it. But it is currently on, 2 structures are currently on the adopted master plan.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Leslie Butterfield with Bay Island Siesta Key Association. And I just want to say, having followed this and attended many of these community meetings and so forth, I represent a group of people many of whom are involved with Architecture Sarasota and very interested in preservation of the Van Wezel. But also, we love to attend theater and we love to have something wonderful new in addition. So I'm encouraged when I see 2 different groups who, when I'm hearing it in the press, are competing, begin to talk about not competing, but working together. So I'd love to hear from both groups, whoever would like to speak, about a vision for how we would really be able to utilize both, the historic Van Wezel and the new Performing Arts Center in a way that makes sense for our community over time.
Thank you so much for your comments and your questions. And I agree with you. As I said earlier, it has never been our intent to tear down the Van Wezel. On a personal level, I will say that I led and ran a 4,000-seat National Historic Landmark in Chicago, the Auditorium Theater. Please go out and Google it because it's one of the most beautiful theaters in the world. It was built in 1889, designed by Louis Sullivan. Actually, Frank Lloyd Wright did work on that project when he was 17. The story goes that Louis Sullivan fired him for moonlighting for another architect. And so, but he did work on the project. It is a beautiful, beautiful theater. My heart is with the legacies that we create, and if we can preserve them and we can keep our citizens safe and using the facilities, I am 100% on board with that. And so I think that there may have been a misunderstanding at some point before my arrival here. I've been here for a year. In this last month, I celebrated a year here. So sometime before my arrival, there was a misunderstanding that the foundation wanted the Van Wezel to come down. And so that is why I showed you at the top of the presentation how we have offered, and our board has unanimously approved, to manage and operate the Van Wezel if the City Commission approves its use as a performing arts center. or a performing arts hall. Now, if it's a skating rink, we don't need to operate it. But if it is a performing arts center, it is something that we can do. We know how to do it. I have run performing arts centers that have multiple spaces. It's usually a small space, a medium space, and a large space, because that way it accommodates the entire spectrum of arts and culture. And so if the Van Wezel, so it's currently at 1741, but I know that there are a lot of community members that wish for the Van Wezel to be to have a center aisle or to have wider seating. And so if that happens, and I know that the Karen's report addressed that somewhat during the last Purple Ribbon Committee meeting. If that happens, you know, that theater could be reduced to maybe a 1,200 seat theater, a 1,400 seat theater, depending on what they do there. So I think it is ideal. It would give us our 25 to 2,700 seat Broadway house. We would have the multi-purpose space at 300 seats, and then we would have that middle theater, which is ideal for community programs. For example, there are many community programs, chamber music, jazz, that would not be able to fill a 2,700 seat theater, but also 300 seats is too small. So a medium-sized theater is perfect for a performing arts campus. And that's how we envision this, that we would be, in partnership with the city of Sarasota, we would be operating a performing arts campus. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, there were more questions. Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was a combo question.
Sorry.
So, not going into it's good to actually ask about the programming, because there is one organization that's relevant to all of these discussions that aren't here, which is the orchestra. Because the orchestra is building, well, they're contemplating a very large structure out by 75. So we're going to go from potentially one theater being the Van Wezel to certainly 2, 3, maybe 4. So I think programming does need to really be considered, because, you know, because there's so many non-for-profits involved with this, we don't want them cannibalizing each other. So that is a really good question of how are we going to program all these different.
So as somebody who has programmed, and I have booked everyone from Yo-Yo Ma to Herbie Hancock, to the Bolshoi Ballet, so I have been programming for 25 years, lots of artists, many artists. I will say that orchestras are very unique. When I was at the Auditorium Theater, which I mentioned was built in 1889, that's where the Chicago Symphony performed. Later, a few years later, because at that time, Chicago did not have an opera company. So they used to bring the Metropolitan Opera from New York. But then the Chicago Lyric Opera was created, and they were all also at the Auditorium Theater. And what happens, I have run orchestras, is that an orchestra needs their own space. They have to manage their calendar. And the Sarasota Orchestra, all you have to do is go on their website. You'll see the number of performances that they present in 1 week or in 1 month. And so it is a conflict to have Broadway and an orchestra in the same hall. It does not work for 2 reasons: the programming and the calendar requirements of an orchestra, and the second reason is the acoustics of the hall. They're 2 very different halls. For orchestras are acoustic music, so you need a very specific, and the architects are here so they can talk more about this, but you need a very specific acoustic designation in that hall. Broadway requires amplified music, so it's a completely different hall. So I applaud the orchestra that they desire to have their future in their own hands with their calendar. Right now, between the Broadway and between the orchestra, they have a very challenging time finding time at the Van Wezel, because it's the only theater that we have. And hence, the orchestra wanting to create their own theater or their own concert hall, and Holly Hall is too small. The orchestra is really, they're rising in stature, they're an excellent orchestra, they have tremendous subscription base, they need to have a larger hall. Would we love them to be on the bay? Of course we would. But for complications that I wasn't here, so I'm not going to talk about, complications with the project, they decided to move out to the county, which I do think it's a huge loss for Sarasota. We wish that they would change their mind, but I don't know that that's going to be possible. So I just wanted to mention that because I have been programming artists and multiple artists, from an Indian tabla player in one space, okay, to, like I said, Pat Metheny doing jazz in another space, to maybe a theater company, a local theater company putting on fences in another space. So I've done that successfully for many years. And I also want to mention, because we're talking about money, how this is going to operate. We are a nonprofit. And I mentioned the triple bottom line. One of the interests for us is to build community and to bring community together, particularly communities that sometimes are not talking to each other. When they come into a performing arts space, we're all there to enjoy an evening. And it doesn't matter who's sitting next to me, because at that moment we are all on equal ground. And so that's what the arts can do for a community, is bring community together and to bridge these different perspectives in a community, which is so needed. We need to be talking to each other. The arts can do that in a very non-confrontational way. So we do envision this place where everyone in the community can come in. And so that's where we look at this through a lens as a nonprofit. Our goal is not always just to make a buck. If not, we would be Live Nation. Live Nation presents concerts all over the country. Their goal is to make a buck. That is not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to build a community. So as a nonprofit, because we have put out there our entire P&L. So as a nonprofit, nonprofits exist through earned revenue and contributed revenue. That's philanthropy. And so the budget that we have put out there, it's like $36 million, $40 million. Most of it comes from earned revenue of ticket sales and ancillaries, right? Ballet, food and beverage, rentals, those are ancillary. But then there's a percentage that you have to raise from philanthropy. Our percentage is at 10%, I think, which is actually quite low. I will say that I used to run the Miami City Ballet in Miami. We had a $24 million a year budget, and I had to raise 45% of that every year. So, because only 3% of the US population go to ballet. So I had to raise 45% of that. But this is incredible because of Broadway. 37% of the US population attends Broadway. And so because of Broadway, our earned revenue is very high, but that still leaves a small percentage, $3.2 million, $3.3 million, that we would have to raise from contributed revenue. So I just want to put that out there because there have been questions about, how are you going to open a business and you're going to be $3 million or $4 million short? Well, we'd like to run it like a business, but we're not a business, we're a nonprofit.
Okay, any other questions?
No, we have more questions,
Oh, sorry, Sherman, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sherman Park East, but I'm going to switch gears a little bit. First, I want to say, Bill, thank you and AG for your sensitivity you showed to a subject that's near and dear to us, and that's commercial boating as well as recreational boaters. And one of the things that there's been a big hole in the access to bait and tackle in Sarasota with the loss of Hart's Landing, which is my follow-up question. But my first question is, since there is, my understanding with the Bay Project, contemplating a bait and tackle general store, boating-oriented retail operation there, would the Bay consider putting up something temporary at 10th Street to service that community, because there's a real hole left in it with the loss of Hart's Landing? Then my second question has to do with Hart's Landing, and I'll get right to it, sorry. Is there a possibility, because we need help, is there a possibility of absorbing Whirling Park, the Soprito Fishing Pier, and Hart's Landing into the Bay Project? Thank you.
Can you get that one question?
That was 1A and 1B, right, Sharon? Yeah, that's what I thought. Let's see. First one, boaters. I know that you know. I'm an avid recreational boater. You're a boat captain. So is your daughter. I've hosted probably 8 or 10 either large captain and boater meetings, or we formed a boater working group that has been meeting over the years. It's smaller. We actually a couple weeks ago met. Had conversations about the north side, and together, that group and the Bay Park Conservancy, AGI, and our team imagine a better boater experience, more ramps, better organized parking, dock master to help facilitate movement, cleaner restrooms, bait and tackle shop. And so the long-term vision certainly imagines that. Of course, AG and I started at the south end of the park and are working our way north, so now we're up there talking about it. We've also been having meetings about the option of the Performing Arts Center being north of the canal and how that would interact with boaters and captains and coming and going and all of that. And so I'm confident, been doing this a long time, it is very doable to integrate all of these uses. Many of the uses are complementary time-wise, but it requires being organized and having dock masters and city staff or conservancy staff to make sure things run smoothly, just like the first phase of the park. And so it's very doable, a lot of work that needs to be done, but I've worked on projects successfully all over the country that have got similar situations that you have to do that. And then 1B of your question, you know, Sherman, because we've talked about it, I wholly support with the captains and boaters had such a hard time with the hurricanes last year. I know Hart's Landing was such an important resource for the boaters. And so I certainly support, in fact, I connected your team with AG. I believe that AG supports, I've heard him say that as well, the idea of temporary bait and tackle. And so I know there's been some conversations with the city. You would know better exactly where they sit, but you know that I'm willing to help however I can, but would love to see the city streamline getting bait and tackle up there to help the captains who had such a hard time and do so much for our community when we go through hard times. This would be something that we could do in return until the new bait and tackle shop is open up there.
Anybody else?
Oh, thank you, Gary.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Gary Dickinson, McClellan Park Neighborhood. Gary Dickinson, McClellan Park Neighborhood Association. You sort of answered my question a little earlier, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Where you spoke of enhancing the brand and the value of Van Wezel. Do you perceive there is a great value and an opportunity with a new performing arts center? You can have a big Broadway style capability, and then also in building the brand, strongly promoting Van Wezel is a small, more intimate concert venue for shows that don't require Broadway style capability, where you have musicians, bands, groups. Tony Bennett, well, he's not with us any longer, but
if
I
we
did
could
see him
present
at Van
Tony
Wezel.
Bennett, that would do amazing things
But
to our brand.
on a broader scale, enhancing the brand where Sarasota in the arts promotion, we have big, we have small, we have intimate venues that can reinforce one another for offering a broader opportunity for arts patrons.
I would say 100%, yes. You have laid it out really beautifully, because this is the norm when you are going to build a performing arts center for a community. And I know we've talked a little bit about Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach. They're all within, an hour of each other, maybe a little more now with the traffic down there, but each one of these performing arts centers have multiple venues. And the challenge becomes, and this is why originally there was a non-compete clause, or there still is. We're asking the city to change that non-compete clause. But that's why there was a non-compete clause in our agreement with the city. Because if you're having the foundation run the theater, a new theater, and you have another promoter running the Van Wezel, of course we're going to be competing with each other. And that doesn't make any sense. And so our proposal is to allow the foundation to operate all of the theaters, because we wouldn't compete with each other. So then we don't have a need for a non-compete clause, right? And we would know how to program. And I've done this for over 25 years, where you might program, a large Broadway show in the large hall, then you might program a jazz concert or a local chamber music concert, and then in the small hall you might have a jazz trio, right? So there's a way to do that successfully, and it's done all around the country successfully.
So I kind of have a follow-up to that. So the Purple Ribbon Committee was formed to figure out what else to do with Van Wezel because it couldn't be a theater. So now you're saying we're gonna now get rid of that non-compete, meaning the Van Wezel can be a theater?
The non-compete really has nothing to do with the Purple Ribbon Committee. The non-compete is in the agreement, which is a public agreement, so you can go out and see it. It is an agreement between the city and the Sarasota Performing Arts Foundation, right? So in that agreement, there's a clause that says that the Van Wezel cannot be anything that would compete with the new Performing Arts Center. And what we are asking is to remove that, but only to remove it if we can operate it. Because if we don't operate it, and let's say you're a promoter and you're gonna come down from New York or wherever to run the Van Wezel, and we're here running the new Performing Arts Center, then you're gonna put shows in there that compete with us. And you might be a for-profit promoter. And if you're a for-profit promoter, you're gonna be competing with the work that we do. So it makes sense for the foundation to operate all of the buildings. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I don't see them as competing buildings because they're
not a
two totally
question.
different sizes.
Because there's what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Because they're two different sizes, so I don't see that they'd be competing.
Oh, no, they would compete.
Good
This will
morning.
be our
Thank
last
you.
question, if everybody's okay with that.
Thank you for your presentations. I am concerned about the money. The arts are such a huge economic driver, and nobody really talked about that this morning, that we need the arts to support so many other businesses and residents that live here and work here. Sorry, that was a statement.
know,
What
I'm listening.
happens if your philanthropic dollars to get the building built don't get raised? Are we stuck with a half-built building? Do you not build? I don't really understand that piece of it. Thank you.
There are some assurances in our public-private partnership with the city about the timelines and the milestones of when the money has to be raised. So you wouldn't have a half-built building. The money has to be raised before that. I think it's before we break ground, or maybe it's a certain percentage. I'm sorry. You don't really need the money in hand. There is a slide that is, you can see it, it's public. We did a workshop with the city on February 11th, and there is a very long slide deck. It's got 90-something slides, but if you guys have nothing to do Saturday afternoon, you can go home and look through that. And there is a slide that shows when the money is needed. So actually, when we go before the City Commission on March 17, we're really only asking to go to the next step, which is schematic design, which if you look at that slide is $7.7 million. So the commission has the ability to not move to the next, so it's all step by step, right? There are milestones, there are off-ramps on the project. So we would not be able to start construction until the money was pledged. We wouldn't need all the money right there and then.
And quick build on that, we have a perfect model for this park site for phase one. We agreed 50-50 partnership, 50 private, 50 public. Phase one, 50-50, we agreed that we would have cash or pledges, grant agreements, pledges, for our half prior to starting construction on phase one. We ended up raising 27 of the 30 million. City had already pledged 3 million in capital, so we didn't need to do that. We actually raised more than we were required to, but we have the model in place, cash and pledges in place before you break ground, so you don't have a half-built park or a half-built building.
Okay. Thank you to each and every one of you. That was fantastic. We appreciate your time.
Okay, before we move on, I would just like to ask the people, the guests on the wall, how many of you, this is your first time here? Raise your hand. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you found it valuable. And Tanya, Bill, Ron, and Lori, thank you again. It was excellent. I know your slides got cut short, but you got to answer lots of questions. All right, moving on. It is time for us to approve the February 1st meeting minutes. Has everyone read those? Can I get a motion to approve? Lito Shores. You have a second? Gary Bischoff, Leslie Butterfield. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Daniel. Officers' reports. Jim?
Do you want me to talk about the couple fake surveys that we
Sure.
in this?
Absolutely.
In this? Okay, thanks. Okay, we put them on our website. The city has put them out, but I absolutely encourage you. There's a couple surveys that are really important that we get input. One of them has to do with the Office of Housing and Community Development. Basically, these are, they're looking for your ideas on how they should be granting monies. And it's a really important thing. Being a past administrator in another community of these funds, I know just how important getting grants is for some of these projects. And I just say, as neighborhoods, we need to be together and get out there and give them some insight on what we believe the right way to do that is. The second one is, it's kind of crazy. I looked at this the other day and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They have a interactive site where you can pinpoint on a map where you see a traffic calming need, where you see an intersection that doesn't work right, where you see places that you have speeding, and literally right down to a house if you want it. I mean, that's great. They have this open until April 20th, and it's all part of a traffic calming plan that we have been working on, not only collectively for a couple of years, but also very much so with the last presentation in February and moving forward. So identify where all the issues in this community are, and particularly in your neighborhoods. I just go out there and take that survey and get your residents and your members involved in doing that as well. Next thing I just want to talk about real quick, the city website redesign. That is moving quite quickly now. It is going to be a state-of-the-art website. It's going to be unbelievably interactive. It's going to have a lot of new data available to you. Part of it will be a redesigned click to fix that not only will be more things that you can report, but also much quicker response times than you're even getting now, which is really very good. They're at a stage now in this project where the current site, although it'll still be updated, needs to be updated on both places. Okay, they've cut off, if you will, where the new site is being put up with exactly the current site as of February 11th. And then, so anything new from now on actually will be done in both places. The goal is to have this site out by summer. And it's going to be really, really exciting, and we'll try to keep you up to date on that and perhaps even get some insight in here and make a presentation, but we'll work on that. The other thing I wanted to say is, and I'm sorry for taking so much, Nancy Kelly has put out a revised neighborhood association form. Thank you, Kelly. And I encourage you all to fill it out. Even if you did one 2 or 3 or 4 months ago, fill it out and send it to her. It's on our website, it's on their website, but it's their normal, who you are, how to get a hold of you, what's the contacts, and all that kind of thing. So I encourage you to do that. Anything else I should add to that, Nancy?
No, thank you. Yeah, more, and I share that information with Development Services, so they have a point of contact for.
Kelly, city website reaching, goal is to have out by Sumer. Kelly new association form, please fill out and send to her. On our website and
I
theirs.
have no idea where that's coming
Yes.
from.
Leslie.
AVNA update.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, what Nancy last said was that
Ern Cook will be having her AVNA meet and greet on Thursday, March 6th, 5:30 p.m. 2325 Wood ST, Maureen's house. We had our membership
I'm sorry.
meeting on Monday night.
Development Services uses the information that we give to the city on this form to contact people when there are new permits, new whatevers kind of thing. So that's how we get that information to the neighborhoods. So please get that to her.
You done, Jim? Thank you, Flo.
Hi, everyone. So I guess the only thing I have to report is about the updated forms for CCNA, and we have received all of them except for Alta Vista. You guys have your meeting in March, so we look forward to receiving that then so we can wrap it up. As far as the money received, Melinda isn't here, so I don't have any updated information on that, but I think, let's say 99% of you people have paid, so thank you very much for that. And that's all I have to report on that for now. Thank you.
Treasurer's report. We have a bank account. Yay! We had to close our PNC account because of all kinds of issues. We now have an account with Bank of America. We are able to pay our bills again, but Melinda's not here, so we have about $4,000. Don't put that in the notes. Committees. Any committee reports?
Yes.
So, Chair of the Protect Our Parks Committee, it's our parks initiative that we started because of Ken Thompson Park and that whole amusement park we wanted to get involved. I did make an announcement of the committee last time, but 2 of you are not here, so I'd like to introduce the committee one more time. Richard Harris is on our committee. Barbara Powell Harris in the back is on our committee. Those are 2 board members. I'm the chair of the committee. We also have Sherman Baldwin on our committee and Ted Wilson on our committee. And I want to say I'm very lucky to have all these people on the committee. Barbara worked for the Parks Department for 18 years. Ted was on the prep board for years. And Sherman is the owner of the parks over by Hart's Landing. So I'm so I'm very lucky to have a very well-informed committee. So we've met so far with Steve and Lucia. Was our first meeting to kind of figure out where we should go. We asked them a bunch of questions. We had a meeting, the committee meeting, about a week and a half ago, and we decided we're meeting in all of our parks when we have our meetings. So that was nice. We met in Arlington Park for the first meeting. And what we did is, let me kind of backtrack a little. Ted very nicely had a list of all the parks when he was on the prep board. He sent his list to Richard, who converted it into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I have to thank Commissioner Kathy Kelly Ulrich, who very nicely shared her spreadsheet she created when she was on the planning board, right? with the zones and the future land use. So we have a spreadsheet of all the city parks right now that have the name of the park, the address, the acreage, the current zone, and the future land use. And so what the committee decided to do was, most of the parks are zone G governmental, but some of them are RSFs, residential single family. So what we decided to do is take the parks that have their future land use of open space, recreation, and conservation, and work with those parks because they are more easily converted or they're more easily to be rezoned to the POS, parks and open space. And that's about 30 of our 50 plus parks we have that will be in that grouping. We have a meeting next week with Jerry Fogel, the Parks Director, to help guide us in the right direction, help us maybe with some language for the ZTAs, and that's kind of where we're at. So I'm very thankful for my committee, and I look forward to protecting our parks. So thanks, guys.
Last fall, we passed a couple of motions regarding understanding concurrence as it related to water and infrastructure in the city, as well as stormwater and spills and water safety. Eileen Normal and I have been working with the city on that for the last few months. And Wezel Hall in Public Works has done a fantastic job of educating Eileen and I on his entire process for concurrence and how that all works. He will be our guest speaker next month. We are going to be all about water next month. And he's going to take you through what we learned, and we'll be able to close that as done. Then secondly, we met with, the city has a new sustainability manager, Aaliyah Garrett. We met with her and Steve Cover and Nancy just last week to talk about how we can alert our residents and visitors on water. So what I thought was going to be the easier thing to do is actually the harder thing to do. So there's more work to be done there. The Aaliyah, who's new to her role in the city, came from the county. She was fantastic in her knowledge of what's going on and how to make things happen, working with the different water keepers and the county, etc. So she was really fantastic. She educated us also. So we have more work to do on that piece, but Wezel Hall will be here as our guest speaker along with Steve Swaw on stormwater for our April meeting. So I know you guys don't want to miss that. Meaningful neighborhood input. You want to talk to that real quick, Jim? The DRC kickoff. We got that note. So for meaningful neighborhood input, as we talked about, the DRC is going to be reviewing their process and looking for improvements, and there's a group of like 9 people, I think, that are going to be on that committee, and that invitation for that kickoff meeting went out yesterday, and that will be on April 14th, so we'll have more to report in May on that. And then traffic calming, we were all about traffic calming last month, so we don't have anything to report today on that. Now we're going to go to area directors. Beth is out. Barbara, would you like to go first?
Just one important reminder.
Hang on, let me give you the microphone. Hang on.
One important reminder, it affects more the north end of town than probably some of you other people. There is going to be an air quality meeting on Thursday, the 6th, at the USF campus discussing air quality issues for Sarasota and Manatee County. The hours are, I think, 5 to 7 for it. I wish I could go, but I have 3 other things at that time. I'm trying to touch bases with all of you who are in my catchment of neighborhoods. Get in touch with me. I'd be glad to bring your issues forward or to also attend your meetings. Park East had a wonderful picnic a couple of Saturdays ago. Thank you.
Leslie?
Hi everyone, Area C. I just wanted to say the same thing as far as,
Put it closer to your mouth, please.
to please reach out to me if you want to work on a neighborhood issue as well. And that's the end. Thanks.
Okay, couple of old business things. We had the city here on the capital improvement projects that'll be on North Trail and South Osprey. Hasn't fallen off the list. Important to work on. How's that traffic calming going to work in advance as a proactive as opposed to a reactive? We're still working on that. 85th percentile, there was some conversation on what does that mean in the traffic calming. And Corinne and Alvin Marie worked on a what is the 85th percentile piece. This is on our website. You can go see it and find it. If you didn't go to the traffic calming presentation town hall, it was available there. But you can read through that and it'll help you understand that. We talked about a few months ago taking votes via email. And I asked you to go back and talk with your neighborhoods using technology and email when we needed to take a quick vote. Well, lo and behold, guess what? It's in our bylaws that we can do that. So look for that in the future when need be. Next, we're going to do any new business. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up real quick? Okay. We're going to go to neighborhood reports. We are not going to have a Pat Robinson report. He is not here today. So if you have something that's for him, email it to him. If you don't have his email address, I'll tell it to you right now. Pat, P-A-T .Robinson, R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N @sarasotafl.gov. And I would encourage you all to email him something so that he takes no more vacations and he's ready for us when he comes back. We're going to start neighborhood reports now. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you once again, Gary Dickinson, McCollum Park Neighborhood Association. I would like to request that the utility department, and I'm new to this, does a better job of communicating with local neighborhoods when it comes to infrastructure improvements. My understanding for the sewer work that will be done on South Osprey, they will be rerouting traffic from Osprey to Orange on Hyde Park. And if our neighborhood's included, we will be able to give feedback to the utility department on possibly better alternatives, which might be rerouting the traffic down Hillview Street from Osprey to Orange Avenue. Hyde Park is a much narrower road, and it also has a 3-point stop sign intersection midpoint between Osprey and Orange, so communication between the utility department and the neighborhoods would be very good. The other thing I wanted to throw out there in reference to traffic calming, I was at the traffic calming meeting last couple weeks ago, but I would encourage the city to use a concept I came up with, use what you got. A lot of the roads in Laurel Park, Gillespie Park, Bayview Heights, which is nestled between McClellan and Cherokee Park, there's red brick underneath the asphalt overlay. And I'm not suggesting that you restore the entirety of the roads, but at certain intersections, possibly that could be utilized at a cost-effective way, sort of a reverse speed table type concept where the red brick is exposed at intersections and for crosswalks, because it's already there. Get creative and think about cost-effective ways to enhance traffic calming, and it also reinforces the historic aspect and characteristics of many neighborhoods within this city that we all work hard to have them thrive and grow and be a great place to live. Thank you.
And if you would like to experience what that brick road feels like, 10th Way is completely worn off on the asphalt and almost all brick with a huge pothole in the middle, so you can experience everything Gary just talked about. Just drive down that road. Sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jessie here. I represent Lido Key Residents Association. I would like to update you on our recent membership meeting, which took place on February 15th at the Lido Beach Resort with the Congressman Stubbe joining joining us as our guest speaker. He provided updates on several key issues. First of all, he's mentioned disaster tax relief bill. This bill provides tax deductions for homeowners affected by federally declared disasters, retroactive to 2022. Secondly, St. Armand's Business Board. Congressman Stubbe met with local shop owners to discuss SBA loans and other relief options. Thirdly, beach renourishment. His office is working to schedule a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers to help advance his important project for Lido Key. Fourthly, tax legislation. He's also involved in drafting a new tax package in Congress. Lastly, he mentioned property insurance. He acknowledged that property insurance remains the #1 concern for Florida homeowners, though this is primarily a state-level issue. He provided a lot of useful information to our members, and this meeting was well attended. It was our annual membership meeting. So if anyone would like to have further information from him, he encouraged to contact his office. Thank you.
Hi, Chris Golia, St. Armand's. Today marks about 5 months since the 2 hurricanes put us underwater. First thing I want to say is St. Armand's Circle, where our businesses are, almost all our residents are up, running, and thriving. So come out for a meal, and you'll definitely be impressed by the restaurants. The retail shops are still, a lot of them not open. They lost their inventory. Insurance didn't cover inventory, they found out, and but they'll come back. But it's pretty vibrant right now. In the residential neighborhood, so St. Armand's has 200 houses around all the shops. And half of those houses are original single-story homes from the 1950s. And they were all damaged by the hurricane. And most of them are still uninhabitable, even abandoned. We got our annual dinner coming up next week. We guessed that we would have 60 to 80% of last year's attendance because so many of our residents aren't living there. And we actually have more people signed up than we did last year. So I know that residents who can't live here right now are flying in and staying in a hotel just to come to this dinner, and that's really gratifying to me that they're still so engaged. We're going to be talking at the dinner a lot about stormwater and flooding, and for the first time ever, I invited our CCNA Area B representative, Beth, to attend as our guest, because I really want CCNA to become, know more about what we're struggling with out there and help us in any way that you can. So I value this group, and thank you for all you do.
David Lowe, DISCA. First, I wanted to extend a thanks to Kelly for being a guest speaker at our February board meeting. Your remarks were great, and you didn't even use a PowerPoint, which was refreshing. So I really felt like your time with the board was kind of a conversation, and thank you so much. The second thing I have is an apology. Last week I authored a guest editorial in the Herald Tribune, which I firmly stand behind. I made the mistake of signing a David Lowe Rosemary District resident and Rosemary board member. Well, both are true. I wasn't speaking on behalf of the Rosemary board, and I wanted to make that clear. Melissa, I'm sorry for that. The third thing is our DISCA annual meeting is on March 13th. We're pleased that Chief Trochet will be our guest speaker, and he's bringing the new mobile command center for tours. So we're really looking forward to that. Kelly, I know you and Beth are planning to attend, and we look forward to that. Thanks.
Well, Dennis Bischoff, Lido Shores. Many of you might be familiar with our Lido Shores Pavilion on North Lido Beach. That was originally built in 1975 and the hurricanes totally destroyed it, totally wiped it out. Well, we're in the process of rebuilding. We hired a project architect called Damian Blumenti. He unveiled a new design which draws inspiration from Sarasota School of Architecture and is offering more space and enhanced storm resiliency. The problem, though, is getting approval from both the city and the state. You know, new laws, new regulations have come into place. We're hoping that they will agree. We've moved our site back a little bit, back onto the dunes, and we hope by doing so, they will give us approval, because I think it's definitely a symbol of what Lido Shores and Lido Beach is all about, because people that walk that beach see it or saw it. They don't see it anymore. We hope to rebuild very soon. And that's our own money. We're not getting any funds from FEMA or anything like that. So if there's any tip money available, let us know, okay? But thank you very much.
Good morning. Ruta Pekauskas, alternate for Glen Oaks Ridge. I'm subbing in for Jerry Fagan, who is our delegate. He recently had urgent back surgery, so it's going to take a little time to recoup from that. Just a quick comment on traffic calming measures. They have been finished on Caliandra. For those of you who don't know that area, Caliandra runs from North Beneva to Circus and then right into the clubhouse at the Bobby Jones Golf Course. Beautiful weather. I hope you're telling your guests or tourists that you run into that we do have this fabulous golf course, public golf course here in the city. And just to come out to use the driving range, they have areas which you can do your chipping. And also, if you're not a golfer, the nature park. Please come up and take advantage of that asset.
Rick Maskell from Central Coconut. I'm filling in for Laurel. She had to be out of town. She's on a vacation for once. She wanted me to mention that U.S. Recycle has started back with their work, unfortunately, and they seem to be increasing their work as well, which is detrimental to the air quality in our entire citywide area, I suppose, depending on which way the wind blows. So we're concerned about that. We're in the process of trying to get a hold of a environmental plan from the previous owners or the previous buyers that fell through on U.S. Recycle. At the moment, we're just trying to get our hands on that or find some way that we can shut them down. The other thing that we wanted to mention was, let's see, there is still no site plan for the 17th and 41 proposed building. I guess it's called the Mill Creek shoreline. So we're awaiting some kind of site plan on that. And then let's see what else is new. That's about it to report. We do have a meeting coming up on the 22nd over at the church over here in Pioneer Park. That'll be a town hall with Jen Ahorn, and that's about all I have to report. All right, thank you.
Good morning, John Dieter Birdkey. I'll email this to Pat Robinson, but I've had my ear burned a lot over the last month or two with all the construction and construction debris, nails, flat tires in our neighborhood. We also don't have sidewalks, so walkers, dogs is also part of the problem. Mail delivery, we've had a lot of flat tires with the local mail truck. So if anyone's got any ideas, we're asking all the homeowners to clean up in front of their house. Street sweeping is kind of ineffective because the time they come around is when all the construction vehicles are there and covering up what needs to be cleaned up. So if anyone's got any other ideas, I'm open to hear them. We are doing some neighborhood cleanup effort though already, but any ideas beyond that? Thanks.
Kevin Spence, Indian Beach Sapphire Shores. We'd like to invite everybody down to our annual Neighborhood Spring Social at Sapphire Shores Park. It's March 9th, a week from Sunday, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And our events chair has really stepped it up. Not only are we going to have live music, but we're going to have neighborhood restaurants with delicious small bites tastings for a nominal fee, including Myrna's that just opened on 41, My Mama's, Sunnyside, Ronk Donuts, and Mama G's. Plus, we're going to have our green space guy there showing what he's done with a little display. Tom Heitzman from Sweet Bay Nursery will be there from 1 to 2. And he's the past president of the Florida Native Plant Society, and he'll have a selection of Florida neighborhood plants on display. Plus Crime Stoppers, Sarasota Baywatch, and Sarasota Mosquito Management. So come on down. Again, that's March 9th, 1 to 4 at our gorgeous little park, Sapphire Shores Park. Hope you can come.
Good morning, Elizabeth Rose, alternate for Bay Point Park. We just had our annual meeting and our board has agreed to stay in place. No other really update, but I have a hint for Bird Key. When a roofer puts on a new roof, they have a magnet, looks almost like a metal detector, and it will, you kind of sweep along the road and it will pick up any nails.
Martha Horton, alternate for Hudson Bayou. We're having our annual meeting on March the 15th, and that's about all I have right now.
Molly Cardamone from Avondale. We are experiencing a lot of infrastructure problems. We have so much construction going on in the very, very narrow streets of our neighborhood. 3 major homes being built at the same time. Many of you have been through this. We just don't know quite how to handle the traffic on our very, very narrow streets. We're very concerned about Bay Vista Street from Orange Avenue to 41. It is just in embarrassingly bad condition, and I will certainly let Pat Robinson know that we're concerned about it. It's not a new situation, it's definitely getting worse.
Thank you. Lynn Elkis, Gillespie Park. Well, finally, we are having our historic marker installed this Friday. I know I've been mentioning this for months and it's very exciting. So Friday at 10 a.m., if you are able to join us, you can participate in our celebration of the historic marker. Then also on Saturday, March 29th, we are having our 100-year anniversary celebration in the park. That's from 11 till 3, and we have all kinds of exciting entertainment that will be there of Scottish background, so it'll be wonderful. We have a women's Celtic group that will be performing, and we also have lots of men in kilts that are coming to perform. So we hope you can join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Parrish, representing SPPNA. In order of importance, I guess with the second or third line, we're having our centennial celebration, 100 years. Tomorrow, from 11 to 3, there's a tour of 8 historic or antique homes and a party for the neighborhood. People still can sign up on the website, sppna.org, if you wish to attend. It's been a very major amount of work, and I'm hoping tomorrow is as successful as we think it's going to be. It really should be very nice. Secondly, we're now starting to plan for a May 8th educational event, and that will probably be focused on fire safety. A lot of residents had concerns after seeing what took place in Los Angeles. Luckily, we have no major fires in our neighborhood, but there are still things you can do to fireproof your home externally in terms of where you plant things and cut back undergrowth near your home. So May 8th is our next planned event. Lastly, we're very lucky. We had a limited amount of storm damage. Most of it, I think, has been rectified, and most of the streetlights have been repaired, but there are still some are out, and I noticed in this week's, or yesterday's City News, they mentioned a paragraph that said they're missing or difficult to get parts to replace some of the lights, so we're hoping that they'll be back up soon. Which leads me to my last item, and that is we are still working with the commissioners about replacing the current highway-style lighting in our area with new, more appropriate and safer set of street lights. So we're looking more in keeping with our historic neighborhood image, as well as providing a safer environment for people to walk. So that's still in process, although like the city, we've got limited funds and some of our neighbors are still repairing their homes and a little short of money, but I'm hoping to continue this effort in the coming days. Thank you.
Rob Grant, Arlington Park. Last Sunday we had the rain date for our annual concert in the park. Hot Club SRQ played from 1 to 3. It was actually an absolutely gorgeous day, so we were very lucky. The weather was like it is out here. We had about 150 people that wandered through the park that day, maybe even a little more. A lot of people just wandered through, didn't realize what was going on, but it was really encouraging to see. We had people from all over the city, different parks. Kathy Keller Ulrich was there. Nancy Kelly made an appearance briefly, and it was just really cool. It was very exciting, and we're looking forward to doing it again next year. We're having another event in April. We'll have our annual potluck in a different part of the park, and right, okay. Sorry. So we'll be, I'll let you know about the potluck dinner at the next April meeting. And then also, last Thursday, a week ago, we hosted the first Come Meet Commissioner Jen Ahern Koch. She's doing a listening tour, and we were the guinea pigs, I guess. So we had about 10 neighbors that showed up at Playa Bowls. It's just a little eatery that's right next to the hotel, right next to Midtown Plaza there. It was actually a really good, I think it was about 2 hours. We sat 2.5 hours. We all just sat out there at picnic tables and we chit-chatted, and it was really cool. Jen just sat and listened. She took a lot of notes, and it was great because it was kind of the same kind of environment like this, but it was more intimate. And as residents, in these meetings, you get 2 minutes, maybe 3. You were able to sit there and interact with your commissioner, listen, talk back and forth, listen to the neighbors' ideas of what you're saying. And so, I don't want to create more work for her, but I would encourage you to talk to her and see if she might want to do that in your neighborhood sometime. It was cool. We did it on a Thursday afternoon from like about 4 to 6 or something like that. And so I would just encourage you guys to do that. It was great. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Melissa Laughlin, Rosemary District. We had our annual meeting in January. Thank you, Commissioner Koch, for attending it. On the agenda were the Colson Hotel, which is being saved. Thank you to the city for your help and support in that, and to the local community supporting that. And also the topic of parking, which has become a crisis in our neighborhood because of all the great things happening around our neighborhood at the Bay Park. And also within our neighborhood with new businesses opening. We had Lefty's Oyster Bar open, we had Origin Pizza open, we've got other things on the docket. So we really have a crisis, and we're really trying to have the conversations and facilitate the conversations that will lead to some concrete solutions here. And I'm trying to learn more about TIF funding and how to work together with different parties so that we can find joint solutions and concrete solutions to address this and keep our small businesses and keep it a great place to walk around and support our pedestrians as well. So that is definitely a priority for us. We are planning our Overtown Square celebration for April 5th, and thank you for the city for supporting that. We're looking forward to celebrating with the neighborhood of that. And within that, one thing that we're looking to do is work across what's happening in arts, which is big in our community, and also events, and taking a 1 to 2 year long look at that and tying our events with our arts, with the elevation of history in our neighborhood, and coming together with a year-long plan of differentiating events and activities that we will then be going and communicating with the city, the county, and our local funders within our neighborhood to try and look at that as a year-long program to raise money for versus ad hoc events. So thank you all.
Good morning.
My name is Elena Andrews. I'm alternating for Valerie Bouchard from the Resident Council. We have a lot of things going on in the neighborhood. I'm happy to see that we're getting our crosswalk at 21st and Washington to make that area more safer. And the police has been doing a lot with the stuff that we have going on in the neighborhood. It has calmed down so much. Thank you.
I'm Judy Mower from Golden Gate Point Association. We had our annual meeting on the 18th of January. We have a terrific board working very well as a team. We're having a meet and greet on March 13th starting at 5 to celebrate all we've gone through in recovering from the 2 hurricanes. Much needed party. We have been working with landscape architect Tim Borden to redesign our much damaged entryway into Golden Gate Point and our landscaping, which of course was much damaged. We have all new plant palette with more salt tolerant plants in it, and you're going to see the whole renovation toward the end of May. You'll see quite a transformation. It's going to look beautiful again. Mike Taylor of the building department at City Hall is organizing for us a meeting of all the contractors and developers working with 4 building projects in our little narrow peninsula. Think 3 football fields laid end to end. So having all of that construction going on with all the problems that creates has been terribly, terribly trying for us. People who have their condos for sale can't really work with it because there's no place for their prospective buyers or real estate agents to park. Just the parking itself is like awful. So we're going to try to get those contractors, developers to coordinate together and perhaps collaborate with each other and with us in addressing some of these, construction-related problems. Even like getting a vehicle to go around and street clean to get the nails up so we get fewer flat tires. It'll be over with in 2 years and we'll all be happy about that, but right now it's a bit trying to live through. So with that, I'll pass it along.
Hey Judy, before you leave, could you connect with Jessie on this plant thing you've got going on? Because she has some plant questions. Judy, Jessie right here. Okay. Could you 2 connect before you leave? She has some questions on plantings. Thank you.
Hi, Joyce Fitzpatrick from Plymouth Harbor. I guess the main thing that's happening in our area, of course, we want to get some temporary landscaping in out front where all the trees were removed until timing permits us to put in permanent landscaping. And of course, right there in front on the left-hand side where the parking lot is going to be our 11 to 12 story new building called the Northeast Building, and we are now going through permitting for that building, and it's projected that construction will start in 2026 and last 2 years. This, of course, is upsetting to a lot of residents, and of course will change the view for a lot of the residents on the first 11 to 12 floors. We're hoping, or we are planning to meet with South Face. I don't know if any of you are familiar with South Face, but they are a green building company. And we're hoping to make the building as close to net zero as possible as far as clean energy is concerned. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Norm Domain, Glen Oaks Estates. I'd like to echo what Ruth has said about Caliandra and thank the city, Corinne Arriaga, Alvin Marie Corrales, and Nick Patel. In terms of the redesign of Caliandra, the improvement with a pedestrian bike lane on the south side and parking striping on the north side has narrowed the street and I believe has reduced the speeding on Caliandra significantly and made it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists at the same time. So kudos to the city for all of that. There is one issue that we have with the cleanup on the hurricanes. At one point in time, after the last hurricane, some of the contractors who were picking up all the debris, large trunks of trees, large limbs and so on, they deposited them along the west side on Circus between Caliandra and 17th Street. It took a while to get them to find who they were and then get them to remove it. In the process of removing it, they've destroyed all the grass, the landscaping that's there. We have ruts and just bare land. We'd like to see the people responsible for that to actually correct the problems that they've created. And we're hoping that the city might get involved in that. Otherwise, all's going well.
Thank you. Leslie Butterfield from Bay Island, Siesta Key. Last month I reported an issue we experienced from the hurricane that an Australian pine fell across by Louise on North Siesta, and it was problematic to find out who was responsible for removing it. A lot of calls, had help from Commissioner Jen Ahern-Koch, from County Commissioner Mike Smith, and eventually it landed where it needed to land, which was the Florida Division of Waterway Debris Removal. So it was a state organization, it turns out, and they hired a sub, who hired a sub, who hired a sub, who we had spoken with at the beginning because for some reason he'd been called to look at it, and he got it removed. So we're celebrating that we now can use our boats and the manatees can return when they're ready. So we're very happy about that. And I was also grateful that our Director of Emergency Management for the city, Todd Kirk, actually called to follow up last week and wanted to make sure it all went well, and it did. So that was great. We are like Lido, St. Armand's. I'd say about a third to half of our homes that are older homes at one story, and they were flooded. We got 4 feet of water across North Siesta Key. So many homes have been torn down. Some are abandoned. When they're abandoned, the debris that's sitting at the street, while the large pieces were picked up, not so much all the mess, right? So we are like the gateway to Siesta Beach, which I guess I don't know if I'm sad or, there's challenges that it's rated again the #1 beach in the United States because our roadways are so narrow, and we have all these contractors, that we're building, and then it's season. So it's really crazy. It can take an hour to get from the North Bridge to the beach at this time. So I don't have a solution. We will be responding to the survey. That's kind of all we can do. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Sherman Baldwin, Park East. 2 weeks ago on February 15th, we did have I guess it's technically our first annual picnic, and it was an amazing turnout. Thank you, Nancy Kelly from the city, for coming out to it. We fed almost 200 people with these most amazing tamales. They were really good. So it's really great, and it was really great because we have a high Hispanic population in Park East, and we had a lot of Hispanic families and people showing up for that. So we're really enthused. I am the incoming president of Park East, and our 2025 goals will be really concentrating on building our Hispanic community membership, as well as working with organizations on an issue that's near and dear to me, and that's affordable housing with missing middle. Park East in and of itself is, I think, very adapted to more affordable housing, unlike some of the neighborhoods in Sarasota. We want to work with the city and organizations like Missing Middle to create more affordable housing in Sarasota. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Leslie Spangler, Alta Vista. We'll be having our meet and greet with, close to your mouth, thank you. Our meet and greet with Commissioner Koch on 6th March, We also had our meeting this week, and there was a presentation by the representatives of the proposed 275 apartment at the Temple Beth Shalom that's being built directly across from the Bay Vista, 250 apartments at Bay Vista and Tuttle. And many neighbors expressed concerns and frustrations related to the traffic, children and bike safety, and flooding issues. And some neighbors had the mistaken impression that the traffic would exit through Lyle, but it's only going to exit through Briggs. We also had a nice presentation from Kelly from the city, and she provided us with some good ideas on how to celebrate the Alta Vista community, focusing on partnership, entertainment, food, and information. The Legacy Trail that's extending through Payne Park, the construction has started on that. And there was a brief discussion with Commissioner Ulrich on the best mechanism to use to safeguard the public green spaces, especially at Payne Park. And her response regarding the best legal avenue for protection is still pending. And then we also had a new candidate who presented for the Alta Vista Neighborhood Association Board of Directors, and he introduced himself there. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Richard Harris, President, Bayou Oaks Neighborhood Association. I have been instructed by, is this working? This one's working better. Again, Richard Harris, President, Bayou Oaks Neighborhood Association. Both my delegates have family issues, so I have been instructed to say that we have adopted Bayou Oaks, we have adopted Old Bradenton Road. And last Saturday we had a cleanup and got 13 gallons of litter that the county picked up for us. I want to thank the Sarasota Police Department for putting a speed feedback monitor. You can tell I wasn't ready for this. A speed feedback monitor on Old Bradenton Road near a crosswalk where we almost had an incident. And our neighborhood picnic is going to be April 19th, which is the Saturday before Easter. So, and that's the news from Bayou Oaks.
Thank you, everyone. If you want your neighborhood report in the meeting minutes, you need to email that to secretary@sarasotaccna.org. March 20th, the prep board meeting. Jerry Fogel will be presenting the park master plan, if that's something you're interested in hearing about, and they changed their meeting time to 4 o'clock. I put this out. This is the Lighthouse for the Blind now has a technology solutions group. Think Geek Squad, only cheaper. And all the money they make goes back into their nonprofit to help those that are visually impaired. So if you have a need, grab a brochure. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, all of you that had an announcement of some fun, cool thing you're going to be doing in your neighborhood, if you email that into Jim, we will put it out on our website, and we will send a neighborhood email out to all the neighborhoods. So please come to March 29th. We're going to have lots of fun. That's everything. Thank you for coming. Meeting adjourned. Next month, it's all about water.
Commissioner comments? No?
Oh, sorry. Commissioners. Any commissioners like to make any comments? Liz is shaking her head no. Jen?
Yeah, just real quick, reach out to Alexia and Christina if you would like to do the meet with Jen. What's on your mind? What's up? Whatever we're calling it. I've done a couple already, and it's been really, really, really valuable for me to go to you and see where you are, what your issues are, and how I can help you. So please, 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 I want to get to know every nook and cranny of every neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Meeting adjourned. Thanks for coming.